Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going somewhere a little unexpected for this deep dive.
Oh,
We're heading to the Amazon rainforest.
okay. Like way deep into the jungle.
Not exactly the deep jungle, no.
Okay.
We're exploring the surprisingly complex world of organized crime
Organized crime.
in the Amazon,
Amazon.
specifically the urban centers
Okay.
that are driving illicit economies.
Interesting.
Yeah, outside of the Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
you don't really see in nature documentaries.
Not really, no.
So,
All right.
our source for this deep dive is a 2024 research report by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime.
Okay.
They focus on the tri-border region,
The tri-border region.
where Brazil, Colombia, and Peru all meet.
So like right in the heart of the Amazon.
Yeah, and this is a place where
Wow.
drug cartels, wildlife traffickers,
Okay.
illegal miners, and
Oh,
even,
little miners too.
yeah, even religious sects are all tangled up.
That's a lot.
It really is.
So are we talking like small time operations or,
Oh, no.
I mean, it's the Amazon.
It's big time.
Wow.
The report actually uses this term,
Mm.
criminal governance.
Criminal governance.
Yeah, basically meaning that criminal organizations,
Okay.
they don't just break the law,
Yeah.
they become the law.
Whoa.
It's like they're setting the rules.
So like a whole shadow government?
Yeah, and using violence to enforce their will.
That's scary.
It is, and it's,
Yeah.
to understand how we got here,
Right?
we kind of got to go back a few decades,
Okay.
back to the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
The rise of the Colombian drug cartels.
Ah, the cartels, yeah.
Back then, the Amazon River
Mm-hmm.
became a key smuggling route for cocaine.
Makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it's huge. It's remote.
Exactly.
Hard to patrol.
It offered isolation,
Yeah.
minimal police presence,
So perfect for smuggling.
even with the logistical challenges of navigating the waterways.
Right. It's not easy to get around.
No, it's not.
But I guess the payoff is worth it.
I guess so.
For the cartels, at least.
Yeah, and the report actually highlights this local figure
Oh.
named Don Porras.
Don Porras.
He was like a middleman
Okay.
for the Colombian cartels in this region.
So a powerful guy.
Oh, yeah. He even served as a city council member in Leticia.
Really? So he was like legitimate,
Kind of shows you how deeply
but also a criminal?
entrenched organized crime was in the local power structures.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was already pretty bad back then,
Oh,
the cartels and all.
but things changed.
How so?
Well, as the Colombian cartels weakened,
Mm-hmm.
a new breed of criminal organization emerged.
Oh,
Brazilian gangs,
Brazilian gang,
like the
right?
Comando Vermelho,
Comando Vermelho.
the CV, and the Premier Comando de Capital.
So they saw an opportunity.
Exactly. They saw a power vacuum, and they moved in,
Interesting.
pushing aside local figures like Don Porras,
Wow.
taking control of the drug trade.
And what happened to the region? With these new gangs in charge.
Things escalated quickly.
How so?
Cities like Leticia in Colombia and Tabatinga in Brazil,
Okay.
they were once just transit points for drugs.
Right. Like stops along the way.
Yeah.
But
They became more important.
they became crucial operational bases for these gangs.
Oh, wow. So, like, the
Yeah.
gangs settled in.
They settled in, and this drove rapid,
Okay.
often unplanned urbanization
So, like a population boom.
and a surge in violence.
Violence, too.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
they took over.
Yeah, it's a fascinating,
Yeah.
like these twin cities, Leticia and Tabatinga,
Yeah.
separated by a single street.
Wow, just one
They
step.
bustle with trade from all three countries.
Sounds kind of chaotic.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
But beneath the surface
All right.
lies this dark underbelly of criminal activity.
So, like, two sides to these cities.
Exactly.
Bustling trade, and,
Yeah.
and the
That's what we're
report,
pouring them in.
it paints this bleak picture.
Really.
Law enforcement stretched thin, weapons flooding the streets,
Makes sense.
and indigenous youth increasingly drawn into the drug trade.
That's awful.
It's really bad, and the statistics are alarming.
Like, how bad are we talking?
In 2023, Tabatinga had a homicide rate
Okay.
of 95.9 per 100,000.
Wow.
One of the highest in the America.
That's incredibly high.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a far cry from the image
Mm.
of like a peaceful rainforest paradise.
Totally.
The report really emphasizes how these gangs,
Mhm.
particularly the CV,
Okay.
they've transitioned from
What?
simple criminal operations
Yeah.
to something far more insidious,
Like what?
criminal governance.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah,
Can
to understand how they achieve this
Mm-hmm.
this level of control,
Yeah.
we need to examine the role of Brazil's prison system.
The prison system.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're going to prison now.
we are.
Yeah.
So when I was reading the report, this phrase really stuck with me.
Yeah.
They call Brazilian prisons
Okay.
breeding grounds for criminal governance.
Breeding grounds, huh?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, that's a strong image.
it is. It's like, how can being locked up give these gangs even more power?
It's kind of counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, it is.
But Brazil's prisons,
Hmm.
they're notorious for overcrowding, corruption.
Yeah.
They actually provide fertile ground for organizations like the CV.
So they're basically running their own mini states.
Inside the prison walls?
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
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 The CV provides protection resources,
Yeah.
even a twisted form of mentorship
Mentor
to vulnerable inmates.
Okay, so they target.
So you have these young people
Mm-hmm.
who might have started with petty offenses.
Okay.
They find themselves immersed in this culture of violence,
Yeah.
and they're indoctrinated into the gang structure.
It
It's a horrifying cycle.
is.
The system meant to rehabilitate criminals
Right.
becomes a training ground for even more sophisticated and ruthless criminal activity.
It's crazy how...
Yeah, and the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
They extend far beyond the prison walls.
Oh, yeah.
The report details a history of prison breakouts,
Okay.
massacres,
Wow.
the rise and fall of
Yeah.
various factions
Within the
within the criminal underworld,
underworld.
the emergence of Os Crias,
Those Crias.
or the kids in English.
Okay.
That's a chilling example.
How so?
This gang is known for its extreme violence.
Okay.
They even use social media
Coastal media.
to post decrees.
Decrees.
Yeah.
They publicly list
What kind of decrees?
individuals they plan to murder. Wow. Imagine the terror that gripped those communities
Oh, yeah.
as these decrees circulated online.
That's a whole other level.
It's a stark reminder of the power these organizations wield,
Yeah.
not just within prisons.
But in society as a whole?
But the report, it goes beyond just documenting the problem.
Yeah.
It offers some potential solutions.
Solution pathways for dismantling this criminal governance.
Okay, I'm interested. What do they suggest?
One of the key recommendations
Okay.
is a shift away from purely reactive law enforcement strategies.
So, like, instead of just...
Instead of just focusing on catching the bad guys after the fact, we need to invest in preventative measures.
So things like...
Things like poverty reduction,
Okay.
job training, education.
Trying to address the root cause.
Exactly.
We need to create opportunities for those who are most vulnerable to recruitment,
to these criminal organizations.
especially young people and marginalized communities,
So giving them.
investing in education,
Okay.
vocational training,
Yeah.
social programs that address these root causes.
Of inequality and despair. It's
Yeah,
like a
that-
long-term strategy, but it makes a lot of sense.
It is a long-term strategy,
If you can give people hope.
but if we can give people hope,
Mm-hmm.
a viable path to a better life,
Yeah.
they're less likely to be drawn into that allure of quick money and power in
Exactly.
these gangs.
The report also highlights
Yeah.
the importance of tackling corruption.
Corruption, how?
We need to strengthen institutions, promote transparency,
Yeah.
hold those in power accountable,
So basically cleaning up the system.
without addressing the systemic corruption
Yeah.
that allows these criminal organizations to operate.
They're all connected.
Any efforts to dismantle them will be undermined.
So it's kind of like a two-pronged approach, right?
Yeah.
You got to help the people
Absolutely.
and clean up the system.
And it requires collaboration
Collaboration between
on
them.
a regional and international level.
Makes sense, these criminal networks.
They operate across borders.
Yeah.
They take advantage of.
Weak spots in the system.
Exactly.
It sounds like a major undertaking,
It's true.
requiring a level of coordination and political will.
Yes.
That's-
That's often lacking in the region.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But there are some encouraging signs. The report highlights a pilot program
Okay.
launched by the Lula administration in Brazil.
So this is recent.
This offers a glimmer of hope.
Okay, tell me more.
This program specifically targets
What does it target?
the impact of drug trafficking
Okay.
on indigenous communities
Indigenous communities.
in tri-border regions.
That's really important because they're often
Yeah,
the most vulnerable to exploitation.
absolutely.
So what makes this program different?
It takes a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
It addresses both the immediate needs
Okay.
and the long-term challenges.
So like a holistic approach.
It provides legal aid,
Legal aid, so they have...
ensuring that indigenous people have access to justice
Mm.
and protection under the law.
Okay, and then
It also offers vocational training,
vocational training. So
empowering them with the skills they need
To find jobs and stuff.
To build sustainable livelihoods.
Okay, that's great.
And
Critically, it establishes specialized care protocols.
specialized care protocol for drug and alcohol abuse.
Oh, wow, yeah, because
Recognizing the devastating impact
that's a huge problem.
these substances have had on indigenous populations.
Yeah, so it sounds like a comprehensive and compassionate approach.
It does.
Are they seeing any results?
It's still in its early stages,
Okay.
but the initial results are promising.
That's good to hear.
The program has helped to reduce drug-related crime and violence
Okay.
in some communities.
That's great.
And it's empowering indigenous people to take control of their own futures.
It's inspiring to see that action is being taken
It is.
to address this complex issue.
But it also raises a question.
A question.
For those of us who don't live in the Amazon,
Right.
what role do we play in this fight?
It's a good question.
It's an important one.
What do they say in the report?
The report challenges us to consider
Oh.
our own complicity
Complicity and...
in fueling the demand for the illicit goods and services
Okay, so wait.
that drive these criminal economies.
So it's not enough to just point fingers at the criminals.
It's easy to do that.
Right.
Or corrupt officials in the Amazon.
Yeah.
We need to examine our own consumption habits.
The choices we make.
Every day.
So like what we buy,
Exactly.
the products we use.
Now think about the products we buy.
Yeah.
From the food we eat to the electronics we use.
Okay.
The clothes we wear.
Right.
Many of these goods are sourced from regions
Yeah.
where environmental exploitation,
Great.
human rights abuses are rampant.
Yeah.
The demand for cheap goods.
Often comes at a hidden cost.
It does.
The destruction of ecosystems.
Yeah.
The displacement of communities.
The enrichment of criminal networks.
It's easy to feel disconnected from these issues
It is.
when they seem so far away.
But the reality is, our choices have ripple effects.
Across the globe.
The report urges us to become
More conscious.
more conscious consumers,
Okay.
demanding transparency,
Yeah.
ethical sourcing from the companies we support.
And support organizations working to protect the Amazon.
It encourages us to do that as well.
Yeah.
Their work is crucial.
Okay.
And they need our solidarity and
Yeah.
our financial backing.
It's a call to action.
It is.
But before we dive into specific ways listeners can get involved, let's take a closer look at the interconnectedness
The interconnectedness
of these illicit economies.
in the Amazon.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling how drug trafficking,
Yeah.
wildlife trafficking,
It is.
illegal mining are all intertwined.
What's fascinating is
Yeah.
how the CV has managed to create this diversified criminal enterprise,
Diversifying.
exploiting existing vulnerabilities
Yeah.
and turning a profit at every step.
So they're like,
They've become masters of leveraging their control over one illicit market.
to gain a foothold in others.
Exactly.
The report gives this chilling example of this
Okay.
in the Javari Valley,
The Javari Valley.
an area renowned for its biodiversity and isolated indigenous populations.
So this is
This has become a prime target
like a really remote area.
for the CV's expansion.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like one of the last untouched places on Earth.
And yet,
Crazy that the CV has reached even there.
the Javari Valley, it's often described as a place where time seems to stand still,
Yeah.
home to some of the last uncontacted indigenous tribes.
Right.
But even this remote region
Yeah.
hasn't escaped the reach of the CV.
So what's the story there? What are they doing in the Javari Valley?
It's a tragic illustration
Okay.
of how these illicit economies converge and reinforce each other.
In what way?
Well, the CV has established coca plantations in the Javari Valley.
Coca plantations. Wow, so they're
Fueling the drug trade.
right, controlling the supply chain.
Yeah, and to sustain these operations,
Yeah.
they engage in illegal fishing and hunting,
Decimating wildlife populations.
which, of course, the indigenous communities depend on.
Right. For their survival, it's
awful.
like a double whammy.
They even use poached meat
Poached meat.
to feed their workers,
Oh.
further entangling the local population.
In their web of exploitation.
Exactly. And to make matters worse,
There's more.
there's more. The report mentions the involvement of a religious sect.
A religious sect in the Amazon.
Yeah, they're called the Israelites.
The Israelis. Okay, I've never heard of them.
Their presence adds this whole other layer of complexity.
To this already crazy situation.
It is crazy.
Well,
So
this is their deal. What do?
the Israelites, they believe their leader is the reincarnation of Jesus,
The reincarnation of Jesus. Okay.
and they control strategic points along the region's rivers.
The rivers, huh? So they're like in a key location.
Exactly, and this has made them valuable allies for the CV.
Valuable how?
They facilitate the transport of drugs,
Okay.
wildlife,
Makes sense.
even illicit gold.
Wow, so they're like the CV's logistics team.
It's not just brute force.
Right.
The CV has become adept at
Forming
alliances and exploiting existing power structures.
to expand their influence.
Exactly. And sadly, indigenous communities often bear the brunt of this exploitation.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
The report is unflinching
Mm-hmm.
in its portrayal of the devastating impact on indigenous populations.
Like, what are we talking about?
Drug addiction violence,
Okay.
even suicide rates,
Oh, no.
have surged among indigenous youth.
It's heartbreaking.
They're being robbed of their futures, their cultures, their
Yeah.
connection to the land.
And the people trying to help them, they're at risk, too.
Oh, yeah.
The report mentions.
Yeah, like Maxiel Pereira dos Santos,
Right. And Bruno Pereira,
who dedicated their lives to defending indigenous rights.
along with journalist Dom Phillips.
It's a reminder that this isn't just about protecting the rainforest.
It's about the people
It's about protecting the people who call it home.
who are suffering because of all this.
Their courage and sacrifice should serve as a call to action.
What kind of action?
We need more transparency, more accountability, and more support for those working on the front lines
Expose these crimes.
to protect vulnerable communities.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We went from the history of drug trafficking
Yeah.
along the Amazon River,
To the rise of these Brazilian gangs.
now the rise of the CV and how they've evolved
It's like a whole evolution of crime.
into this force-wielding criminal governance.
And the impact it's had on the Amazon.
We've seen how this has fueled violence,
Environmental destruction.
the exploitation of indigenous communities.
It's a mess.
It is. But we've also explored some potential solutions,
There's no for
ways to dismantle these criminal networks
Okay.
and create a more just and sustainable future for the Amazon.
Yeah. Like what kind of solutions?
It's important to remember, this is a complex issue
Right.
with no easy solutions.
No quick fixes.
It requires this multifaceted approach,
Or like a combination of things.
addressing the root causes of poverty and inequality,
Yeah.
strengthening institutions,
Tackling corruption.
fostering international cooperation.
It's a lot.
But it also requires a shift in our own thinking.
Our own thinking
As consumers,
right?
we need to be more mindful
Of our choices.
of the impact our choices have on the world around us.
Absolutely.
Demand more transparency
From the companies we support.
and ethical sourcing.
Yeah, like really think about where our stuff comes from.
It's easy to forget
It is.
that the Amazon rainforest is more than
More than just a jungle.
it's a place where the fate of humanity
Wow.
is intertwined with the health of the planet.
That's deep.
It's a place where individuals
Yeah.
are fighting for their survival,
For their way of life.
their cultures, their right to a future,
A future free from violence.
free from violence and exploitation.
And we can help.
We can by making conscious choices, supporting the right organizations,
Using our voices.
and speaking out against these injustices.
We can all make a difference.
We hope this deep dive has inspired you
To learn more.
to get involved,
To take action.
to use your voice, to advocate for a more just and sustainable world.
For the Amazon and for everyone.